The billionaire husband sent his wife to prison, then publicly married her best friend. Inside a cold, damp prison cell, the TV flickers with the glow of a lavish Malibu wedding. Ava Sinclair sits frozen, her hands trembling around a cup of coffee gone cold. On the screen, her best friend, Lena Moore, stands in a white dress, smiling wide, a smile that cuts like glass. And on Lena's hand glitters the blue diamond ring Jackson once slid onto Ava's finger under the Brooklyn sunrise, whispering, "Forever us." Outside, applause fills the air. Inside, Ava watches her life stolen in real time. The man she loved, the friend she trusted, and the word "mom" now spoken to someone else. They thought she died in that darkness, but they forgot one truth. She is the storm waiting to rise. If you've ever lost everything, stay. This story isn't about what was taken. It's about what she takes back. Before the prison walls, before betrayal, there was light. Ava and Jackson were America's golden couple, beautiful, brilliant, untouchable. Their faces smiled from magazine covers. Their love story sold the illusion that money could buy happiness and fame could protect it. In those years, everything shimmered. They had a mansion overlooking the bay, 2 laughing children, champagne parties, morning jogs with matching smiles. People said, "They're perfect," and Ava almost believed it. Every night, Jackson kissed her forehead and whispered, "We're unstoppable." And she, with all her heart, believed him. But perfection is a fragile mirror. Behind it were cracks, missed dinners, secret calls, late meetings. Ava ignored them, too proud to question, too loyal to suspect. She didn't know that the same world cheering for them would soon watch her fall, and the man promising forever would be the first to let go. They met years earlier on a rainy morning near Columbia University. Ava rushed into a crowded cafe, juggling papers, phone, and an oversized latte. The lid popped off and coffee splashed across a stranger's laptop. She froze. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The stranger, tall, calm, with patient eyes, simply smiled. "Guess the universe wanted to reboot my work." That stranger was Jackson Reed. He handed her a napkin instead of anger. She laughed, nervous but charmed. They started talking about business, ambition, and dreams bigger than their bank accounts. He said, "One day, I'll build something that connects people better than luck just did." She replied, "Then build it with me." That was the start. No fireworks, no perfect music, just 2 people, soaked and smiling, in a coffee shop that smelled like new beginnings. A moment small enough to forget, powerful enough to define everything that came after. 2 years later, they stood on a Brooklyn rooftop. The city lights painted the sky in gold and blue. Jackson knelt, holding the ring that caught the skyline's glow. "Ava Sinclair," he said, voice steady, "forever us. No matter what the world throws our way." She laughed through tears, believing every word. In that moment, he wasn't a billionaire in the making, just the man she loved. She saw partnership, loyalty, a future built hand in hand. When she said yes, the wind rose softly, brushing her hair across his face. Somewhere below, a siren wailed, distant and ignored. They danced under the stars, whispering plans about homes, children, and a company they'd create together. Later, she'd remember the wind, how it shifted, how it carried something colder beneath the warmth. But that night, all she felt was love. Because love, before it breaks, is always beautiful. Together, they built Novalink, a tech empire born from long nights and shared dreams. Jackson coded through the dawn. Ava balanced budgets, charmed investors, and led their team with grace. They became unstoppable. Awards followed. Headlines crowned them the power duo of Silicon Valley. Money flowed. So did praise. Their home glowed with success, glass walls, ocean view, and laughter echoing through open halls. "We did it," Ava said one night. Jackson smiled. "This is only the start. But beginnings have endings written inside them. As Novalink expanded, Jackson changed. Meetings stretched past midnight. Messages went unanswered. His smile grew thin. Ava brushed it off. "He's just tired," she told herself, pouring another glass of wine. Then Lena Moore joined the company. Confident, magnetic, familiar. Ava introduced her as "my sister in everything but blood." That night, when Lena laughed at Jackson's joke a little too long, Ava's heart skipped once. Not from jealousy, from something colder. The kind of feeling that warns you, perfect never lasts. Lena Moore arrived like a summer breeze. Elegant, calm, and impossible to dislike. Ava introduced her proudly to the Novalink team. "My best friend since college. The missing piece we've been waiting for." Lena smiled, her eyes sharp but soft enough to hide it. She was brilliant. Smoother with clients, confident in boardrooms, and dangerously good at reading people. Jackson admired that. Ava saw it too, but she felt proud, not threatened. The three of them became the face of Novalink's next chapter. Magazines called them the Trinity of Tech. Ava loved that title. She didn't see the quiet looks exchanged when she wasn't watching, or the late-night strategy meetings that didn't include her. Sometimes Lena's laughter lingered too long after Jackson's jokes. Sometimes her advice sounded less like guidance and more like influence. Still, Ava trusted her completely. That's what love does. It blinds you, even to the ones standing closest. And somewhere behind Lena's perfect smile, the future had already begun to twist. Business trips multiplied. Jackson's schedule grew unpredictable. When Ava called, he always sounded tired. "It's work, baby. You know how this expansion is killing me." She wanted to believe him, but silence started filling the spaces between their words, and in that silence her mind whispered questions she didn't want answered. Lena was always there, at meetings, at dinners, at every moment Jackson couldn't be. When Ava mentioned it, Jackson laughed. "She's helping us win, Ava. You should thank her." So she did. She smiled through the unease, hosting dinners where Lena and Jackson traded glances that felt too familiar. Her heart fluttered once. Not with love, but with warning. One night, Ava walked past Jackson's office door. She heard laughter. His low and warm, hers sharp and secret. When the door opened, their faces froze for a second too long. Something had shifted. She could feel it, like a draft sneaking under a locked door. The light in her life was flickering, and she didn't yet know how dark it was about to get. Weeks later, Jackson brought home a thick folder of documents. "Routine stuff," he said, kissing her cheek. "You just need to sign these before tomorrow. Legal compliance forms." Ava skimmed the first page, saw nothing unusual, and smiled. "You know I trust you, right?" He smiled back. "That's why we work." She signed every page, 30 signatures, 30 steps toward destruction. When she placed the pen down, Jackson exhaled. A quiet breath of relief she didn't notice. Lena had already made sure the paperwork was flawless. Every clause pointed to Ava. Every forged number led to her name. That night, Ava fell asleep beside him, dreaming of their future. Jackson lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of the storm beginning outside their window. She had no idea that with every stroke of ink she'd given him the weapon to end her life. The world was still calm. The betrayal, almost complete. It was a Thursday afternoon. Sunlight poured across the marble floors. Ava had just come from a doctor's appointment. The test was clear. She was pregnant. Baby number 3. Her hands trembled as she held the small white stick. She couldn't wait to tell Jackson. She'd make his favorite dinner, light candles, and let the children share the surprise. At 3:47, she heard the car pull into the driveway. She smiled. He was early. She fixed her dress and practiced the line in her head. "We're going to need a bigger house." Then the front door exploded. Armed agents stormed in, shouting commands that didn't make sense. "Ava, read! Hands where we can see them!" She froze. "What? There must be a mistake." Cold steel closed around her wrists. She looked up the stairs and saw her children's terrified faces. "It's okay, babies. Mommy's okay." But she wasn't. The living room filled with noise, flashing lights, confusion, and Jackson standing in the doorway, calm, distant, watching. The night that should have been joy became the beginning of her nightmare. They dragged her outside in handcuffs. Cameras flashed. Ava screamed his name. "Jackson! Tell them it's wrong! Tell them!" He stepped forward, face expressionless. "The evidence is clear, Ava." Those words pierced deeper than the cuffs on her wrists. Her knees weakened. Her voice broke. "You can't mean that. You know I didn't—" But Jackson didn't look at her. He turned to the agents. "Make sure my kids don't see this." Inside, their son cried out, "Mommy!" Ava tried to run toward him, but the agents pulled her back. Jackson didn't flinch. He didn't move. The man who once promised forever now stood there like a stranger wearing his face. As they shoved her into the car, she looked through the window one last time. Her children were in his arms. Behind them, Lena stood watching from the porch, wearing Ava's life like it already belonged to her. And that's when Ava understood. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan, a perfect one, signed by her own hand. The next morning, Ava's face was everywhere. News anchors called her the mastermind behind a billion-dollar fraud. Photos of her being dragged in handcuffs played on loop. Her tears turned into entertainment. Jackson appeared on national television, voice heavy with sorrow. "I trusted her completely," he said, eyes glistening. "But the evidence, it's undeniable." Lena sat beside him, wearing black, pretending to cry. "Ava changed," she whispered. "The money. It destroyed her." She dabbed her eyes with a tissue, stealing sympathy that once belonged to Ava. Social media erupted. Bear the Liar trended for days. Sponsors withdrew. Novalink stock rose. Jackson's name untarnished, her reputation erased. In the cell, Ava watched it all unfold on the flickering TV screen. Her best friend crying fake tears. Her husband playing the grieving victim. The world pointing at her like a fallen idol. She wanted to scream, to tell the truth, but no one would listen. For the first time, Ava understood what it meant to be truly alone. Months passed. Prison time was slow, cruel, endless. Ava's body changed. Morning sickness confirmed what she feared and hoped. She was pregnant. The guards didn't care. The nurses were indifferent. The father of her child didn't know, or worse, didn't want to. At 2:17 a.m., she went into labor. No pain medicine, no family. Just fluorescent lights and the sound of metal doors slamming shut. After 6 hours of agony, a baby's cry filled the air. A girl, perfect and tiny. Ava held her close, tears mixing with sweat. "Hi, baby girl," she whispered. "You're my reason to keep breathing." But the next morning, a guard came in. "He's here for the child," he said. Ava clutched her daughter tighter. "Please, just one more hour." They took the baby anyway. The cries echoed down the hallway until they faded. Ava collapsed, arms empty, heart silent. She had given life to something beautiful, only to watch it be carried away by the same man who destroyed her. Days turned into months. Ava wrote letters to Jackson, to her children, to the baby she never got to hold. Every envelope came back unopened, returned to sender. The guards stopped calling her Mrs. Reed. The inmates stopped asking questions. She wasn't a person anymore, just another number in an orange jumpsuit. Her reflection in the cracked mirror looked nothing like the woman she used to be. Fame, family, identity, all gone. The world outside kept turning, brighter without her in it. News of Jackson's success reached the prison TV. He smiled on stage, talking about resilience and rebuilding trust. Lena stood beside him, hand resting on his chest like she'd always belonged there. Ava turned off the screen. The sound of her own breathing was the only proof she still existed. She whispered to herself, "They can erase my name, but they can't erase the truth." Even if no one heard her, she wasn't done. Not yet. One morning, a guard said, "Visitor for you." Ava almost refused. Hope was dangerous here, But when she walked into the visitation room, she froze. Across the glass sat Lydia, her former assistant, young and nervous but determined. "I don't believe you did it," Lydia said. Ava blinked, unsure if she'd heard right. "Everyone believes I did." "Not me." Lydia's voice steadied. "I worked under you for 3 years. You're too careful. The mistakes in those documents, they weren't yours." For the first time in months, Ava felt something stir inside her. It wasn't joy. It was recognition. Someone saw her again. "Why are you here?" Ava asked. "Because what happened to you is wrong, and I'm going to prove it." Ava's throat tightened. "That's a dangerous promise." Lydia smiled. "So was trusting the wrong people. Maybe it's time to trust the right one." And for the first time in a long time, Ava didn't feel alone. Lydia kept visiting. Week after week, she brought news, notes, and determination. One day, she leaned close to the glass, eyes bright. "I found something." She laid out pages, financial statements, transfer logs, signature sheets. "Look," she said, pointing to the signatures. "These aren't consistent. Whoever forged them was good, but not perfect." Ava stared at her own name, duplicated and twisted. "That's not my handwriting." "Exactly," Lydia said. "And the bank transfers? They happened when you were in meetings, not online. Someone else used your credentials. It was the first real proof, the chain that began to unravel everything Jackson and Lena built." "Keep digging," Ava said quietly. "Don't stop until you find it all." Lydia nodded. "I won't." That night, Ava lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, her tears weren't from despair. They were from something fiercer, hope. And beneath that, the spark of something stronger. Vengeance. Months after Lydia's discovery, Ava received a letter stamped with a new name. Lance Davis, attorney at law. She almost didn't open it. Hope had tricked her before, but inside was one line that made her heart stop. "I'm not one of them." 2 weeks later, he visited her in the cold, gray interview room. Lance was younger than she expected. Calm voice, sharp eyes. He said, 47 lawyers said no. I'm number 48. Ava studied him. "Why help me?" "Because the truth still matters," he said, "and because I hate watching powerful men bury women who trusted them." Something in his tone broke through her walls. For the first time, someone wasn't pitying her. He believed her. He slid a file across the table. "Your case isn't dead, Ava. It's buried. We just need to dig deep enough." When he left, she pressed her hand against the table where his had been. The air felt lighter. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a lie. Lance and Lydia worked together quietly. They combed through years of financial data, phone logs, voice memos, searching for the single thread that could unravel the web. One night, Lydia called him. "I think I found it." It was a voice file buried deep inside an old server, time-stamped 2 weeks before Ava's arrest. She played it. Jackson's voice filled the speakers. "She'll sign anything. That's the beauty of trust." Lena laughed softly in reply. "Then let's make her sign everything." Silence followed, heavy as a confession. Lance's jaw tightened. "That's it. That's our proof." Lydia whispered, "We need to get her out." The next morning, Lance walked into the prison with a printed transcript. Ava's hands shook as she read the words. Her signature had been her weapon, and they'd used it against her, but now those same signatures would set her free. Days after hearing the recording, Ava sat across from Lance in the prison visitors' lounge. He placed a paper cup in front of her. "It's real coffee," he said. The smell hit her. Warm, rich, human. For a moment she forgot the walls, the guards, the judgment. She took a sip and smiled, a quiet, trembling thing. Lance watched her. "You haven't smiled in any of your photos." "Photos don't give you much reason to," she said, laughing softly. They talked. Not about the case, but about life outside, about music she hadn't heard in years, about the simple things she missed. When he left, Ava looked down at the half-empty cup. It wasn't much, but it felt like a heartbeat returning. That night, she wrote a single line in her notebook. Hope tastes like coffee. And for the first time in 3 years, she believed in mornings again. Ava's retrial was set. Lance brought her boxes of files, every statement, every record, every forged document. Each night, she studied until her eyes burned. She practiced breathing through anger, speaking without breaking. Lance taught her how to control the story before it controlled her. "You're not fighting for revenge," he said. "You're fighting for truth. That's how you win." Ava nodded. "I'm ready to stop being their victim." Outside, Lydia chased witnesses and traced money trails through shell accounts. The web began to crumble. For months, Ava prepared like a soldier. Quiet, steady, unstoppable. When she looked in the mirror now, she didn't see a prisoner. She saw a woman sharpening herself into justice, and as the trial date approached, she whispered to her reflection, "You took my freedom. Now I'll take back my name." The courtroom was full. Reporters filled every seat. Ava sat beside Lance, calm but burning inside. Across from her, Jackson adjusted his tie, confident as ever. Lena avoided her eyes. The judge called the case. Lance stood. "Your Honor, new evidence." He pressed play on a small recorder. Jackson's voice echoed through the room. Clear, undeniable. "She'll sign anything. That's the beauty of trust." Lena's face drained of color. Whispers swept across the courtroom. Lance continued, his voice firm. The fraud wasn't hers. It was engineered by those who benefited from her destruction. Ava didn't move. She just looked at Jackson, the man who had once promised forever. The judge leaned forward. "I've heard enough." For a moment, the room fell silent. Then came the sound Ava had waited years to hear. The gavel striking down, sharp as thunder. And just like that, the lie that built an empire began to collapse. The courtroom waited in silence. The judge adjusted his glasses, eyes resting on Ava. "Given the new evidence, this court grants immediate release on bail pending full retrial." For a heartbeat, Ava couldn't move. The words didn't sound real. Then Lance's hand touched hers, steady and warm. "You're free, Ava." Her breath broke. The tears came fast, heavy, unstoppable. For years she'd held them back, terrified that weakness would swallow her whole. But now they fell freely, washing away the weight she had carried alone. The guards unlocked the cuffs. The metal fell with a small sound that echoed louder than any verdict. As she stood, her knees shook. The audience whispered, cameras flashed, but Ava didn't care. She looked at Jackson, the man who'd destroyed her, and saw nothing left of the person she'd loved. She turned to Lance. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. "Don't thank me yet. We're not finished." But for Ava, in that moment, freedom wasn't a destination. It was breath, sharp, new, and real. Outside the prison gates, the sky stretched wide and blue. Ava stepped forward, the sun hitting her skin for the first time in years. It burned, but she didn't pull away. She wanted to feel everything. Warmth, wind, life. Lance waited beside a silver car. Beside him stood a small girl clutching a teddy bear. "This is my daughter, Helena," he said. "She wanted to meet the bravest woman I know." Ava smiled through tears. "Hi, Helena." The girl handed her a single sunflower. "Daddy says they grow anywhere." Ava held it like something sacred. After years of concrete walls and metal doors, the air smelled alive again. On the drive back, she leaned her head against the window, watching the horizon blur into gold. She whispered to herself, "The sun feels heavier when you've lived without it." Lance heard her, but didn't speak. Some silences are too full for words. And for the first time in a long time, Ava didn't feel like a prisoner remembering freedom. She felt like someone learning how to live again. Weeks later, Ava moved into a quiet suburb far from the city. No cameras, no reporters, no whispers. Just peace. She changed her name to Nora Mitchell and found work as a remote accountant for a small nonprofit. Simple, invisible, safe. Each morning she brewed coffee and watched the sunrise through a cracked window. She learned how to sleep without fear, how to walk to the store without looking over her shoulder. But at night, when the world was still, she'd open a drawer and pull out the ring, the same blue diamond Jackson once placed on her hand. She didn't wear it. She just looked at it, like a scar made of light. She told herself she was healing, that anonymity was enough. But deep down, a voice whispered that peace built on silence never lasts. She wasn't ready to admit it yet, that she missed her children more than freedom itself. And somewhere deep inside, the mother she'd been was still reaching out through the dark, searching for them. One afternoon, Ava parked across the street from her old house. She told herself she just wanted to see it once, to make sure they were okay. Through the open gate, she saw Lena in the garden, smiling, graceful, perfect. 2 children ran to her, laughter filling the air. Ava's breath caught. "Mommy!" her youngest daughter cried, wrapping tiny arms around Lena's legs. Ava gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. She wanted to scream, to run, to hold them, but she couldn't. Not yet. Her son appeared next, taller now, holding Lena's hand as they walked inside. Ava's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed, "That's mine." Tears blurred her vision. Years of loss, silence, and pain crashed into one sharp moment, her life continuing without her in it. She whispered to herself, "They don't know the truth." And as she drove away, something inside her shifted. Not despair this time. Something colder, sharper, the beginning of resolve. Days later, Ava returned. She parked in the same spot, hidden under shade. Through the open window, voices carried from the backyard. Lena's voice, sweet but edged like glass. "Your real mom is a criminal. Don't ever forget who takes care of you now." Ava froze. Her son's small voice answered, trembling, "But Mom said she loved us." Lena's reply cut through the air. "Love doesn't matter when it ruins people." Something inside Ava snapped. Quietly, completely. The grief she'd buried turned to fire. She started the engine but didn't drive away. Her reflection stared back in the mirror, not the victim, not the ghost, a mother. "I let them steal my name," she whispered, "not my truth." That night she called Lance. "It's time," she said. "For what?" "For me to take everything back." And with that, the war for her life and her children truly began. Lance listened in silence as Ava told him what she'd heard. Lena's words, the lies, the poison she poured into her children. When Ava finished, her voice was calm. "They're hosting a global expansion gala next month. That's where we'll end it." Lance nodded slowly. "You're sure?" "I've been sure for years," she said. "They took my name in public. I'll take theirs the same way." Lydia joined the plan, gathering digital evidence, witness statements, and the recording that had freed Ava once before. They built the presentation in secret, every file labeled, every second timed. "This isn't revenge," Lance reminded her. Ava met his eyes. "It's correction." Each night she practiced her words, steady and sharp. Not anger, not tears, truth. When the date was set, Ava stood before the mirror in the same emerald gown she once wore the night they took everything. She whispered to her reflection, "You buried me once. Watch me rise." And as the city prepared to celebrate Novalink's success, Ava prepared to end its lie. The ballroom glittered with light. Reporters swarmed, champagne poured, and Jackson Reed stood on stage beside Lena, smiling like sin in silk. Then the doors opened. A hush spread. Ava Sinclair stepped inside. Her dress caught the light, the same one from years ago, reborn. Every camera turned. Every whisper froze. Jackson's face drained of color. Lena's glass slipped from her hand. Ava walked to the center of the room, calm, deliberate. "Some of you may remember me," she said, her voice steady through the microphone. "I'm the woman they destroyed, but I'm also the woman they couldn't erase." Behind her, the giant screen flickered. Lydia's cue. The presentation began to play, the files Lance had prepared. Images, transactions, voices, proof. Ava stood tall, eyes locked on Jackson. "I didn't come for forgiveness," she said. "I came for truth." The room erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted. Guests gasped. But Ava didn't move. She'd already won the moment she spoke. The recording played loud enough for every corner of the ballroom to hear. Jackson's voice, "She'll sign anything. That's the beauty of trust." Lena's laugh followed, cruel and clear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Investors stormed out. Jackson tried to speak, but the doors burst open again. Federal agents in dark suits. "Jackson Reed, Lena Moore, you're under arrest for fraud, obstruction, and perjury." Lena screamed. Jackson froze. His empire crumbled in a single breath. Ava stood still as they were led away, the handcuffs gleaming under the gala lights. Their fall was louder than her silence had ever been. Lance joined her at the edge of the stage. "It's over," he whispered. Ava shook her head softly. "No, it's just finally fair." For the first time in years, she exhaled without shaking. Justice hadn't come quietly. It had come in front of the whole world. And as the cameras turned from her to the exit, Ava walked away, leaving their downfall behind like dust. Days later, Ava's name filled the headlines again. But this time, it was vindicated. She was no longer the fraud, but the woman who survived. She reunited with her children under the soft light of morning. They hugged her tightly, whispering, "Mommy." The word finally belonged to her again. Lance stood nearby, smiling quietly. He'd become more than her defender, her anchor, but life, like truth, never stays still. That evening, as they talked over coffee, a woman appeared at the door. Elegant, familiar. "Lance," she said softly, "it's been a long time." His expression changed. "Ava, this is my ex-wife." Ava managed a small smile, though her chest ached. "Life never waits to test us, does it?" And he shook his head. "No, it doesn't." And just like that, the universe reminded her, even freedom comes with new battles. Weeks later, Ava stood on a quiet hill overlooking the ocean. Her children played nearby, their laughter mixing with the sound of waves. She closed her eyes, the wind brushing against her face. The past no longer haunted her. It had simply made her unbreakable. "They took everything from me," she whispered, watching the sunset. "But they never took how I rise." The sky burned orange and gold. Her son called, "Mom, come see." She smiled, walking toward them. Every step felt like forgiveness. Not for them, but for herself. Ava knelt, pulling her children close. "This," she said softly, "is what they could never steal." The world would remember the scandal, but Ava would remember the lesson. That strength isn't found in vengeance, but in standing again when the world thinks you can't. If you've ever been broken, she'd tell you, don't stay buried. Rise, because the storm you survive becomes the calm that saves someone else.